Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. It's the start of another week. I hope you're doing well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Another big week for Arsenal. They just keep coming thick and fast. Champions League is the focus of attention over the next couple of days. And then it's return to the Premier League and a trip to Wolves at the weekend. I'll be heading to London Colney tomorrow, Shelby Realty Centre. London Colney still in my head, for open training ahead of the Champions League game against Dynamo Zagreb on Wednesday night. So should get an idea whether any of the injured players might be back. Could we see Ben White? Could we see Takahiro Tomiyasu? Could we see William Saliba? Not according to reports from France, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then there's a press conference after that with Mikel Arteta and a player as well. So lots to get stuck into today. And we're going to start, as I said, on William Saliba, who of course missed the game at the weekend against Aston Villa. Very costly absence that was as well. So certainly so it proved as the game wore on in that second half. Mikel Arteta, speaking afterwards in his post-match press conference, admitted he was very worried. That was a direct quote about Saliba and the injury. Said he was going to have another scan tomorrow. Arsenal, I would imagine, know the results of that final scan now. It hasn't emerged yet what they are, but reports from France, L'Equipe, and obviously the big French publication, sporting publication over there, reporting late last night that William Saliba could be out for a couple of weeks, and it is a race against time to be fit for the Manchester City game, which is February the 2nd, I think it is, a couple of weeks away. Obviously, you would, from an Arsenal point of view, you absolutely want William Saliba fit to face Manchester City and to go up against Erling Haaland in a couple of weeks. Arsenal got a few games to go before that. If that is the case, and he is sort of targeting Manchester City as his return, then it means he misses the game against Dynamo Zagreb, of course, on Wednesday night, which you think should be okay. Misses Wolves away at the weekend, and then the trip to Girona the following midweek, and then it's Manchester City. So could he be back for that? And if it's it is a hamstring injury. We know it's a hamstring injury. 2 weeks does feel a bit short if it's anything remotely serious. And the fact that Mikel said he was very worried about it, I feels quite optimistic that he could be back for the Manchester City game. I hope those reports are right and that he is certainly targeting that one, because you want William Saliba to play against Man City, no doubt about that. We saw City yesterday. They're certainly getting back to form now. Banged in 6 goals against Ipswich. We know how well Saliba and Gabriel tend to do against Erling Haaland as well. So you want him fit in that game. And it's also the big knock-on effect, of course, of if he's not fit, what do you then do? Because at the weekend, Mikel moved Jurriën Timber over to centre-back, and that, of course, meant Thomas Partey playing at right-back again. And we've all had that debate in the last 48 hours or so about the merits of playing Thomas Partey at right-back and how that impacts Arsenal. So it's a it's going to be a big couple of weeks. I mean, hopefully I might find out a little bit more. Like I said, when I'm down at the training ground tomorrow, spending a few hours there, we should find out a little bit more potentially about exactly what's going on with Saliba. Mikel will be speaking, of course, at that press conference as well. He's not going to give much away. We know he's not going to give much away, especially when it comes to an injury to such a key player as William Saliba. But yeah, you absolutely want him fit for Manchester City. So it's just another injury issue to cloud what has been an absolutely injury-ravaged season that continues to frustrate Arsenal and continues to sort of impact squad selection. I mean, we've had a few comments coming in on the back of the Saliba stuff. One here from Nasai says, for me, Rice has to play centre-back if Saliba is out for a significant period of time. Timber at right-back and Partey back into midfield. Thomas in the right-back position needs to stop. Weakening 2 areas because of one injury is something Mikel has done for years, and it needs to stop. It has never worked. I think I've got another one here from Terry. He says, I enjoy your analysis, but I'm fed up with excuses you give for Arteta. What is Kivior doing? He's a centre-back. We have 3 changes due to Saliba's injury. Let Arteta come out and call the board out if he's not getting any support off them. Unfortunately, company men do that. I think he's pretty much called the board out in each of the last 3 or 4 press conferences, to be honest. As much as you can call the board out as a manager. He's not going to sit there and just say, I need money right now. The board are awful. They're rubbish. He's not going to do that, is he? But I think he's pretty publicly called them out in the last few press conferences. It's been a very different sort of change of approach, I think, from Mikel Arteta when he talked about transfers in the last few. So, yeah, there's a couple of comments from, I mean, the one about Rice playing centre-back is an interesting one. And you're certainly not the only person here, Nasai, who has said that. I'm just going to bring up the squad here. So this is what we've got. Obviously, we're looking at the moment with Arsenal, with the options you could possibly have if Saliba's going to be out for a significant amount of time, or certainly for the next few weeks. And, maybe the Man City game, but we'll have to wait and see on that. What else can Arsenal do here? What can you do to sort of change things up? I do think when Saliba's not fit, Arsenal's best option at centre-back is Jurriën Timber. I can absolutely understand why Mikel Arteta is doing that, because I think he's a natural right-sided option. Yes, you do have Jaco Kivior who can play there, no doubt about it. But, the people calling for Kivior, I can understand because he's centre-back. But look, the last time Kivior played, started a game, I think, was Crystal Palace in the League Cup when he got absolutely bullied by Mateta for that goal. And not every comment, but pretty much loads and loads of comments were he should never play for Arsenal again. He's not good enough, which is obviously not right. But those were the comments at the time. And that was when he was playing in his natural left-sided position of centre-back in that game alongside Jurriën Timber, actually. But now, a couple of weeks later, we kind of tend to forget what happened there against Crystal Palace. And now everyone's saying play him as out of position on the right-hand side of the centre-backs with Gabriel. So I think we can easily kind of forget what's been said in recent games and how performances have gone in recent games. So I can get why he's doing Timber. I think that brings the best balance to the centre-backs in William Saliba's option. Obviously, if Ben White was here, brilliant. If Tomiyasu was here, brilliant. It would solve all of these issues. And maybe when I go down to the training ground tomorrow, we'll get a sight of those two and they'll be getting closer to coming back, which would be absolutely massive for Arsenal. Obviously, it would. But again, when you sort of talk about Arsenal's lack of strength in depth, and that's been a big topic of discussion at the moment, it's impossible to ignore the injuries and how unlucky they've been with injuries. Yes, there's definitely been squad building issues. The summer transfer window was not a great one. We said at the time it looked a bit of a gamble, and it's a gamble that hasn't worked. The players who have come in haven't really performed. Marino's not settled into the place. Calafiori's been injured lots. Sterling has just been, a disaster. And it just hasn't really improved Arsenal what happened in the summer, mainly because of, bad decision making, and they took a gamble and it didn't really work. But it's impossible to, yes, you can criticise for that, definitely. But I think it's impossible to ignore how unlucky Arsenal have been with injuries. We're talking now about, you look at how many strong defenders Arsenal have got there, and yet they're still in this issue of like, who can play at right back? At the same time, you've got Saliba out, you've got Ben White out, you've got Tomiyasu out. All players who play in that position, which would easily solve this issue if they were fit. I wonder, because I agree, I don't like Thomas Partey at right back, but I can see why Arteta does it as well. Again, I can see why he plays Timber there, but I can see for how Arteta wants his right back to play. Partey is clearly the most sort of natural in that position for everyone else, because otherwise you're going to have to play left-footed players over there. Could you play Kieran Tierney at right back? Probably. I think he's done it a couple of times before, but then you've got a very left-footed player playing there, and he's not someone who really inverts. Although if he's left-footed, maybe he could invert a little bit if he came in there, because he'd been sort of moving on to his natural foot. Could you play... Calafiori, again, is someone who Arsenal have played there this season, but again, just like Tomiyasu and Ben White, he's injured. So there aren't loads of options. Kivior was probably the one that I think most people point to because he's clearly a centre-back. So you could do that, and then you could leave Timber and right back. You could leave Partey in midfield, and that just causes the least possible disruption for everything. And a lot just revolves now on William Saliba and this injury and how quickly he's be back. If it's really, really quick and it's not a bad one, then it's going to solve a massive issue for Mikel Arteta in terms of what he's going to do. But if it's a bad one, if he's basically facing up to 3-4 weeks on the sidelines, and the news on Tomiyasu and White isn't good, then you've got a real issue to solve on that right-hand side and what you do with Timber, and then who do you play at right back? Because Thomas Partey, 1 win in 6 with him playing there. As much as Mikel will say it's working quite well and he's playing quite well, the results suggest otherwise, and it's clearly impacting Arsenal. So, yeah, it's a real blow. It's another injury issue. Love to get your thoughts on it in terms of what you would do then in terms of the right back situation. If it is going to have to be Timber playing at centre back, what would you do at right back? Or if you don't want Timber playing at right back, who do you think comes in at centre back? Declan Rice is a shout that a lot of people said. I'm not sure about Declan Rice at centre back. You go up against Man City, say you're playing Erling Haaland. I don't think I really want Declan Rice. I know he can play there, but I'm not sure that's an option for me. I would prefer Timber playing centre back and Partey playing right back than moving Rice into centre back, I have to say, and keeping Timber at right back. But that's just me. I know other people have different opinions on that, but I'd be concerned if Declan Rice playing centre back against a top team like Manchester City. You could probably do it against Zagreb this weekend in midweek, I'd have no issue with him doing it then. Maybe even against Wolves at the weekend and Girona away. But for Manchester City, I'm not sure. Declan Rice at centre back for me, I'd be very, very concerned about that. Right, moving on quickly. I haven't done this for a while. I thought about it today. The update on the Inside Arsenal FPL League. So those are pretty small. Unfortunately, those names. Having seen it on screen now, I can barely even read them. I might have to bring them up on my slides here so I can actually read exactly what I'm saying. So let's have a look. First placed, Johnny Sullivan with Arjun Wiener. Well done. 60 points for you. I had a terrible week this week. I think I got 29 points. Absolutely terrible. Most of those were Chris Wood. So, Johnny Sullivan leaving away with 1,548 points. He enjoyed a 60-point week this week. That's your team there. If you can squint, you can just about see it on screen. I think you've got Hall at right back, Gabriel, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robinson, Buemo, Palmer, Salah, Isak, Mateta, and Wood. So the strikers doing the business for you. Well, Mateta and Wood doing the business for you this week. So congratulations to you, leading the way at the moment. We've got Callum in second, Javier in third, Ebobo in fourth, Edward, Casey Alexander, Sam West, Josh Franklin, Anton, Emil Albertson, and James Hamilton making up the top 10 in the Inside Arsenal FPL League. So well done, you guys. I think I've slipped down to just around the 500 mark after a very, very bad week. Got up nearly into the top 300 before that. But yeah, terrible week for me this week. See me plummet down the league. So well done, Johnny, leading the way in the FPL League. And quickly moving on to the Arsenal women last night. Really good win for them. Again, their unbelievable run of form under Rennie Slegers. Of course, now Arsenal's permanent women's boss continues. 5-0 win. Alicia Russo amongst the goals once again. Caldente getting a couple, including one from the penalty spot. Arsenal in second in the WSL. Unfortunately, Chelsea absolutely streaking ahead. Still unbeaten in the league this season. Won 10 out of their 11 games so far. Absolutely dominant 7-point lead over Arsenal, who are ahead of Manchester United on goal difference. Very good win for the Gunners yesterday against Crystal Palace. Moving on to some of your questions and comments now. Nostradamus has been in touch. Says, good morning, Charles. I'm curious to see what Jason Ito can do over the next week or two, whether it's going in for deadweight, unhappy players that's seeking a redemption move to the Arsenal, or going for one or two bottom half Premier League clubs being the other logical route. If you could choose two players, which do you see as possible realistic signings before the window shuts? And you list Eze, Wissa, Mbuemo, Rashford, Calvert-Lewin, Cunha, Delap, and Mateta. Well, out of those two, I would definitely. Oh, I was about to say definitely, but I do like Eze. I think he's a really good player. But I think out of those two, right now, for what Arsenal need, I'll be going for Mbuemo and Cunha. Cunha, I just think is a really good player. I really, really rate Cunha. And he's not signed a new contract yet. That new contract, it still looks like it's going to happen, but it's not signed yet. Be interesting to see if anything does happen, materialise with Cunha over the next couple of weeks or so. And in Mbuemo, I just think it's fantastic footballer. He's ready to make the next move. Sorry, Brentford fans, but I think he's ready to make the next move in his career. I think he will make the next move in his career over the next 6 months or so. Probably not this window, but in the summer. And I think it'd be great. Scores goals, really strong, works really hard. Plays on the right-hand side, which Arsenal need, of course, another option over there. So, yeah, those are my two picks out of that list, Mbuemo and Cunha for me. Moving on to Aaron here, who has been talking about Sverre Nypan, the Norwegian young midfielder who is of interest of Arsenal and several other top clubs at the moment. He said, hey, Charles, are there, as there is about a week left before the window shuts, it might be a good time to check on some of the links we had in recent weeks. If I remember correctly, we've been heavily linked with the Norwegian wonder kid, Sverre Nypan. I'm no expert on him, and I don't think he would be the signing that could come in and make an instant impact. No, I don't think so at all. But investing on youth and young players was what Mikel and Arsenal have been planning all along, and signing Nypan, who is highly coveted around Europe, could be a big scoop to Arsenal's recruitment strategy. We still haven't signed anyone else, even though we need at least two attackers up front, which is very worrying. Fingers crossed we can sign someone before the end of the window, but it looks more and more likely to be a miracle to pull off some big money signing at this stage. Yeah, on Nypan, look, he's a player that Arsenal are absolutely interested in, as are plenty of top clubs across Europe. Obviously, made his debut at Rosenborg when he was 15. He's now 18. Huge talent, midfielder, and Arsenal like him and want him, but so do plenty of other top clubs. certainly reports from Norway suggest that there might be a sort of decision made on what his next step might be in the next couple of weeks. Not necessarily would be leaving Rosenborg, but maybe something could be agreed for the end of the season, something like that. So we'll wait and see on that. He's got a decision to make. Like I said, he's one of these players who he knows and well aware, and talks have been going on with a number of clubs over where he could potentially go and where the next step is. And Arsenal, we know is one of those clubs. So it's up to him and his people to make a decision, kind of like Martin Odegaard did at his age, or slightly. Odegaard was slightly younger, of course, but had that decision to make. Opted for Real Madrid, despite having talked to Arsenal and pretty much every other top club in Europe. And Nypan's in that exact same position. And we'll wait and see who he decides, whether it's Arsenal or whether it's someone else. We'll wait and see. But Arsenal there's a budget set aside, or they're willing to spend money on these type of players. We saw it start last season with the Tommy Setford signing from Ajax, the 18-year-old goalkeeper, and they want to bring in some of the best young talent from across Europe, including England, but across Europe as well, over the next few years. And if they manage to win the race for Nypan, then that'd be absolutely fantastic. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Max here says, Charles, do you think Arteta made a grave mistake going all in and playing our best 11 against United in the FA Cup? With how grueling our January schedule is and how few healthy players we had left, that game felt like a good opportunity to rest some top players and play a heavily rotated team with academy players. We're in a situation where only a Prem or UCL title will be considered a successful season. I just don't agree with that. I mean, you want to win those, yes, absolutely. But look, if Arsenal had won the FA Cup, I'd have been absolutely delighted this season. I want to win every single trophy. I'm not sure on that. I can see why he did it. Arsenal just had a bad defeat in the game against Newcastle a few days earlier. If you go out and the next game at the weekend, you send out a load of academy kids against Manchester United and get beaten at home in front of 60,000 people and on TV, and you've made a choice to basically throw the FA Cup almost, you get absolutely hammered. I know the team he picked, it lost anyway, but I'm not sure you can play a heavily rotated team with academy players against Manchester United in the third round of the FA Cup. You want to win that competition. So no, I don't think he made a grave mistake going in. I can absolutely understand why he did it. Maybe there was an opportunity to rotate a little bit more rather than academy players, but your Zinchenko's and your Kiviors, those sort of players. I think they probably should have started the game, but I don't think you can really rotate and throw in a load of academy players against United in the FA Cup. Not for me. So no, I don't see it as a grave mistake. But I think he could have rotated maybe a little bit more in that game and given some of the players who were on the bench, like your Zinchenko's or your Kiviors, those sort of players, a few more minutes. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, like I said, tomorrow, busy day on the road. I will try and do a show in the morning before I go, then off to London Colney for open training and the press conference ahead of the game against Dynamo Zagreb on Wednesday, where I'll be in the press box for that game on Wednesday night. So enjoy your Monday, enjoy your start of the week, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.